The 90s gave us plenty to enjoy: Jurassic Park, the music of Aqua, and a shed load of weird platforming games. Oh, and Tamagotchis.
Oh my god, my Tamagotchi!
But like all those Tamagotchis left to die in their own filth, not everything escaped the 90s unscathed. And while some platforming heroes went on to become pop culture icons, others didn't. Whether their games were terrible or the characters just terminally weird, the 90s are littered with platforming heroes to whom history has not been so kind. Sorry Ristar, maybe next millennium, eh? Here then are the platforming heroes of yesteryear that Mario and Sonic don't invite to parties.
This is the story of Earthworm Jim video game. In outer space, a sweet evil cyclone lost a Queen cyberspace suit while it smooshes. Right in that slimy Earthworm Jim and blammo!
Earthworm Jim, he's such a groovy guy. Earthworm Jim, he rockets through the sky. Man, the 90s were weird. Earthworm Jim was a 2D platformer in which the designer's 90s video game character fridge poetry had thrown out worm, supersuit, ray gun, and the word groovy.
Groovy!
Jim brought new meaning to the phrase use your head, as he could use his to whip enemies, grab onto things, and helicopter glide. He fought evil in 2D games and even got his own cartoon series.
Groovy!
What made Earthworm Jim so fun was the sheer variety. The first game alone featured levels in which you race through asteroid fields, protect a puppy who can transform into a ferocious monster and attack you if he gets hurt, pilot a submarine through undersea caves, and in one particularly memorable example, bungee jump into a lake of snot. However, Jim's adventures came to an abrupt end in 1999 when Earthworm Jim 3D was met with lackluster reviews, pretty much killing off the series. Earthworm Jim, we think he's mighty fine. Earthworm Jim, a hero for all time. Or maybe just the 90s. Sorry, mate. However, the original game did get an HD re-release in 2010, so even if we don't have new games, more people can enjoy fighting a guy that throws up whole fish at you. Seriously, always chew your food.
It all started so simply. I had just finished my usual morning routine of nude funkercise, fired up the Barca-Lounger, grabbed a quick bite to eat, and prepared to watch some serious tube.
There's a lot to envy about geckos. They stick to walls, shed their tails in an emergency, and they lick their eyeballs instead of blinking, which is a hell of a way to win a staring contest. But no amount of stickiness could make Crystal Dynamics' Gex the Gecko stick in the minds of gamers beyond his 90s heyday. This leaping lizard made his debut in 1995's Gex, one of the best-selling games for the 3DO console, packed full of one-liners delivered by comedian and Simpsons writer Dana Gould.
Yeah, this place has all the warmth of a Dick Clark special.
In 1998, Gex made the jump to 3D in Gex Enter the Gecko. But though Gould reprised the role in the US, the European release had Gex's wisecracks delivered in the smooth upper-class tones of British actor Leslie Phillips, putting a totally different spin on the character.
For 2 years I started my day watching Kung Fu theater. Days, then weeks blurred into one long, greasy telethon.
For 2 years, I started my day watching Supermarket Sweep. Days, then weeks blurred into one long, sorry afternoon chat show.
Smart localization, just like how my character in the US version is voiced by
Southern Belle Evangeline Green. Sorry fellas, but my dance card is full.
Gex squeezed his way into one more game in 1999, but after that was never seen again. Maybe he swallowed the Millennium Bug, or perhaps we as a society decided that 1 decade of mediocre platformers starring a sexually irresistible lizard was probably the right number of decades.
If you're calling from a touch-tone phone, please press 1 now!
It's all for the best, as having shed the Gex mascot like a pile of dried-up lizard skin, Crystal Dynamics went on to take the helm on the prestigious Tomb Raider franchise.
Bhagavati of the 7th. It must be referring to the capital of Patala.
Could Gex return one day alongside Lara? What do you reckon, Ms. Croft? That is fair. Who
doesn't love an animal with attitude? I mean, apart from dog catchers, I guess. The annals of gaming history are packed with critters who had that most elusive of qualities, a mad, bad, totally rad dude. But few can match the devil-may-care bearing of Ocean Software's Mr. Nuts, who made his first appearance in 1993 SNES game, Mr. Nuts. This titular squirrel paired platforming with projectile weaponry in the form of his stash of acorns and a weaponized tail, with which he would lightly brush his foes to death. But what Mr. Nuts sadly lacked was any real charm or personality, unless baseball caps and fingerless gloves count as personality.
No.
Most non-triumphant. The game this anthropomorphic squirrel occupied was solid enough, but Mr. Nuts himself didn't inspire much loyalty or enthusiasm in gamers of the era. I mean, it's hard to be down with the kids when you insist on such a formal mode of address. Please, Mr. Nuts is my father's name. Yeah, I really wish he'd change it. Old Nutsy did get another shot at the big time in a 1994 spin-off for the Amiga home computer, Mr. Nuts Hoppin' Mad, a console port of which was cancelled, which must have been a real kick in the nuts for Mega Drive owners. Frustratingly, just the other side of the year 2000, British developer Rare would unleash Drunken Squirrel Conker on the world, proving that in principle at least, there was nothing wrong with a platforming red squirrel, so long as he was throwing up outside a pub. A harder, more cynical squirrel for a harder, more cynical time.
It seems like the 90s really had a thing for green lizards, but much like good Jurassic Park sequels, Croc was another one that didn't quite make it into the noughties. Croc was an adorable orphaned reptile taken in by the Gobbos, which are what you'd get if you crossed a Tribble from Star Trek with a squirrel, and which you spend the whole game trying to rescue after they get kidnapped. Croc even managed to bag himself a sequel, this time with a cool eye patch for bad guy Baron Dante. Although the Gobbos in this one are considerably less cute, suddenly deciding to wear clothes and say more than "Oi!" and they look more like rejected Muppets, and this one's wearing a bikini for some reason. Perhaps the weird remodelling of the Gobbos is a reason why the third full game was cancelled in 2005. A couple of games did come out in 2006 and 2007, but they were mobile games of the mid-noughties and therefore were terrible.
What did you do to my Crocky? No, sorry, rejecting it as canon. I'm deleting it from the Croc wiki.
Interesting fact, Croc was originally designed to be a vehicle for Nintendo Dinosaur Yoshi, then retooled after Nintendo said no thanks. Alright, Yoshi, no need to be so smug. I'm riding on Mario's coattails anyway, Luigi's better.
When we say the words 90s platform games and Fox, it's obvious who we're going to be talking about. Hang on, Star Fox wasn't a platform game though. Who the hell is Titus the Fox? Originally a French game called La Gaffe, Les Aventures de Mokhtar, Volume 1, La Zoubida, the game was intended to be a tie-in for a deeply problematic song by French comedian La Gaffe about a girl who isn't allowed to go dancing, but is saved by her friend, but then they're arrested because he steals scooters. Titus Interactive reskinned the game for the international version to feature their mascot, the titular vulpine mammal, and thus was born Titus the Fox to Marrakesh and back. So instead of releasing a game with a mascot that no one outside of France would know, they released a game with a mascot that no one who didn't work at Titus Interactive would know. Much better. The game was pretty standard 2D platforming fare with Titus, who, let's get real for a second, looks way more like a cat than a fox, searching for his kidnapped girlfriend, of course, by running, jumping and picking up objects. And dealing with deadly enemies. According to Titus's Wikipedia page, the player's goal is to avoid dogs, construction workers, giant bees, and similar creatures. So things similar to dogs, giant bees, and construction workers? The honey monster? According to Nintendo Magazine System in 1998, Titus the Fox was due to become a franchise with a new Game Boy Color sequel, Titus Jr. However, it never got finished after Titus Interactive fell into financial trouble and closed in 2005. Aw, no more Titus. Still, that's what happens when you make Superman 64. Sacre bleu!
The platforming heroes who stuck around combined two things: interesting, unique gameplay and buckets of personality. In Glover's case, 1 out of 2 ain't bad. Glover, released on the N64 in 1998, then the PlayStation 1 year later, asked players to guide a ball around complex levels through rolling, bouncing or slapping moves. All of these were quite literally handled by the protagonist, a smiling, disembodied glove who looked a bit like the Pillsbury Doughboy had had a baby, then eaten its head. To be fair, the actual gaming mechanics involved in the quest to restore the Crystal Kingdom were pretty nifty, but unlike Thing from the Addams Family and the giant foam finger, Glover was one hand that failed to grab hold of the public imagination. We're not giving up on the concept though, and that's why today we're proud to introduce Outside Xtra's new mascot, Wavy. Wavy will be in stores soon, price TBC, though it's going to be expensive. A Glover sequel was announced in the summer of 1999, promising better physics, multiplayer and a more involved story, but was cancelled, trapping Glover permanently in the 90s nether zone, along with scrunchies and bowl-cut hairdos. I suppose all's fair in glove and war. 'Tis better to have gloved and lost than never to have gloved at all.
Get him!
Acrobats are amazing entertainers who perform spectacular gymnastic feats, so be cheating a bit if they use wings. However, Aero the Acrobat, yes, we see what you did there, is an entertainer in the world of amusement, circus and fun park, the developers presumably having used up all their naming creativity on the bat pun. Aero decides that the world of amusement is worth saving for some reason, and so sets out to do just that by defeating an evil clown/industrialist and his sidekick Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel. Just gonna say, if he makes it to the next game, the developers don't know what kamikaze means. To win the day, Aero must navigate different circus and fun park themed levels, bouncing on trampolines, going on roller coasters and doing aerial drill attacks into oncoming clowns. You know, standard day at a fun park stuff. The game was fun enough to earn a sequel in '94, and Aero was a protagonist with promise, the brainchild of David Siller, who worked on Crash Bandicoot, another animal with attitude who certainly escaped the clutches of the 90s. But despite a spin-off for Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel, the decline of the 16-bit era meant Aero just couldn't stick the landing. Probably for the best. I mean, it was never ethical to make bats do tricks in circuses. The only performing animals we like are dogs on skateboards and Poplio, the circus Pokemon.
If you or I created Sonic the Hedgehog, we'd probably consider that a good day's work and leave it at that. Not so the Sonic team of the 1990s, however, who, having created the era's prototypical gaming mascot in Sonic the Hedgehog, decided to try to make lightning strike twice with Sega Genesis platformer Ristar. Ristar fell out of the sky and into our hearts in 1995, sharing a birth year with Toy Story and the Starbucks Frappuccino. And can you guess which of the three is no longer a money-making juggernaut? Hint, it's not Toy Story. Ristar was a game that looked a lot like Sonic, but minus the famous Hedgehog's trademark speed, something which exactly nobody was asking for. Standing in for that gameplay gimmick were Ristar's long grasping hands, which could be used to traverse levels or bring the pain to enemies, but mostly just made Ristar appear kind of unnerving. Just gonna cross long grasping arms off the list of good ideas for gaming mascots. Ristar's only game was by no means terrible, but amid the bun fight that was the 90s platforming scene, didn't make a lasting impact, and in the end those long arms couldn't even grab onto Sonic's coattails as they zipped past. While his star has certainly faded, this luminous 5-pointed hero hasn't completely left the scene, and was last spotted in Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, a high-octane karting game featuring over 20 playable characters from Sega's rich gaming history.
Nice!
And where's Ristar, you ask? He's right there on the starting line, waving the flag. This is it, Ristar, start of the big comeback. Get those arms to the big time, baby.
So there are some of the weirder characters from the 90s platforming genre that didn't quite make it past the year 2000. You know, won't it be strange when we're all fully grown? But they won't, because they didn't make it past that year. But anyway, if you enjoyed it, why don't you listen to Mr. Wavy here, who did make it into 2017. How you good? Great, oh, fantastic. Now, what Mr. Wavy wants you to do is to watch this video, and then this video, and then he also wants you to subscribe up there. Yay, isn't that great? They're really good videos, aren't they? Yeah. What was that? No, I can't. No, Mr. Wavy, Mr. Wavy! No!